Allison, and Daisy, uh, I want to give a concise explanation of why I'm giving the students rhetorical analysis paper a 0 for AI usage and for meeting quite a few criteria that I have that to me discloses quite clearly that AI was used to compose this particular document. So I want to walk you through that, but I'd also like to preview it very quickly here. There's a high AI score while most peers are scoring 0. Um, Interestingly, the non-flagged or non-highlighted portions that CopyLeaks gave were clearly edited, and that is, you can see that from the Google Doc, which means more human writing. Some of the most specific details of the ad she's analyzing fall in that section. And then it also contains some errors, which would also be indicative of human writing. So then the latter 2/3 of the document, which would be the flagged and highlighted writing on CopyLeaks, does not acknowledge specific details from the ad and only deals in vague writing akin to what AI typically writes for this particular assignment. The body of the paper fails to address some of the most notable features of the ad because AI doesn't literally watch the video. It can't see the things that people see. And I'll give you some examples in a minute. But also the Google Doc version history would also indicate what we're seeing here. Everything is very consistent. It shows that a document being written very fast in a very linear way that doesn't resemble human writing. So no reconsidered word choices, no deletions, never removed sentence, for example. And instead appears much more as AI writes, which is this linear start to finish fashion. And then lastly, I watched the draft back playback of the composition of this particular paper, and it would seem to also reiterate everything I'm seeing. So, you know, it looks a certain way just reading the paper, but then it looks the same way from the AI report, and it looks the same way from the Google Doc, and it looks the same way from the draft back. And that's probably all you need to know. But I would like to at least show you as much so to give a better visual representation of exactly what I'm talking about. So let's start with the AI score, which was 65%. And if you look at the top, the first 2-ish paragraphs, 2.5 paragraphs were not flagged. And I think you'll see in the later part of the video why that is. And, you know, so there's my first entry into looking deeper into this paper to determine whether or not AI was used. So I think probably the next thing I did was to look at the Google Doc history. And I want to look at a few things specifically. Let's see. This is where one of the first larger chunks of writing was copy pasted in. And this is good to remember here, a key strategy used. And this is where the writer has about 3 paragraphs that deal specifically with rhetoric. And the paper they were writing is a rhetorical analysis paper. And so here you can see that that's the key strategy. This is where things start to get highlighted. Let's see. Here we can see other larger chunks. This falls only 4 minutes past the previous edit. So from 9:59 to 10:03, another 4 minutes has passed, and there another chunk is copy pasted in. And it kind of continues in that manner. I want to show you some of the last edits that Daisy made here, or the student made, is edits to this middle part, which to me is interesting for a number of reasons. This is where the writer is actually dealing with some clearer specifics of what is happening in the ad. And yet, there's still something missing here. Some of the big picture facets of the ad are missing, but this is as specific as the writer gets regarding those things, and we'll touch on that in a second. So it's clear that some editing happened after the linear composition of the rest of it, but most of it happened right here, which is the area where the AI checker did not highlight. And I think that's why the score is in the 60s rather than 100. To watch a quick depiction of the composition history, you can see the writer making some edits as she goes here. And this is largely a linear affair too, but I am seeing words changing and substituted for other words as the writer goes. So it's not just misspellings being corrected as she goes. There's some different phrasing and composition happening here. So remember a key strategy. This is that mark where things start to get highlighted. This is when you'll notice that the writing no longer does any of this like clear rephrasing of things. It's just a very straightforward, linear, things just kind of finish there. And so that's the end of the paper. Now, I want to talk more about the content of the discussion here. And for that, I'll pull the paper over here. So, the student chose a really lengthy ad. It's 5 minutes long. And what we see is a family getting together at Christmas time. And the grandmother of the family has dementia, Alzheimer's, or something like that. And the granddaughter takes her grandmother on a tour around her hometown. And so we see a lot of the hometown, and it's largely a story of grandmother and granddaughter here. And then she reunites with her husband at this point of the ad there. And she's had a good day in her Alzheimer's situation. So to me, it's peculiar that Alzheimer's or dementia is never mentioned in the ad. The closest that the student gets is this part here. Hold on, let's pull the paper up. No, that's not it. A grandma who can no longer enjoy the holiday season due to her condition. So she refers to it there, even though she doesn't put a specific point on it. But remember, this is the part that was not highlighted. And, there are a few errors here, even small things with spacing. And I think like she means a touching narrative, not touchy. But as we get through here, gone are really the errors in this part. Well, I see some spacing thing here, but the writer did type it up. But I never see any specifics as the writer attempts to back up these claims about rhetorical appeals. The tour of the hometown is never mentioned. The specific memories that the granddaughter shares aren't mentioned with any details. Things are referenced ambiguously here. Some of the facets or choices of that or choices that the authors made are not included that I would think would be brought to the fore. The writer doesn't mention the song choice, the John Denver song. Doesn't talk about this sort of kind of essential to the ad is recollections of when the grandmother met who would become her husband. That isn't mentioned at all. And in fact, they kind of flash back in this old film editing looking way. It looks like old film flashbacks. Nothing like that is mentioned. AI also does this thing where it hallucinates details and makes things up. I think the writer or AI perhaps leaning into these durability, dependability, focusing on the new and improved version. The ad never shows a new or improved vehicle. It only shows this classic one. And the ad is only focusing on its history and what it was, and I think we can gather some things about its reliability and trustworthiness from that, but the writer never draws those conclusions for us, just kind of vaguely alludes to them. So present a vehicle as a trusted companion in family celebrations, but the very little of the ad is spent in celebration or at home with doing Christmas things. It's all about the bulk of it is touring downtown and talking about the grandmother's past, but not just downtown. It goes to a bunch of places. Here she says the ad emphasizes the functional benefits for the vehicle. That just doesn't happen. It is not in the ad. More specifically, its spacious interior. No, it is not in the ad. This isn't emphasized in the ad. So, in other words, back to my list here. I can't give this paper a grade because I feel that it violates our terms for AI, and it seems clear across a lot of criteria that it just doesn't really. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is it just seems more that it was written by AI. Written by AI, typed by human, and the first third touched up by human. That's what it looks like to me. Daisy and I have had correspondence about this via email, and she called me up on the phone, and we had conversations. So I think it's clear to me that the student knows that using AI in the course is forbidden, and I'm perplexed why her scores are still so high and why all the evidence would point to that she's still continuing to use it. And I think that's all I have to say.